Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with yet another inspiring young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everyone. So grateful to be here. Thank you, Gertrude, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Vera Ventura. I'm also known as the Cancer Goddess, and I started a nonprofit called the Breast Cancer Goddess. And so, my journey. How do you tell that in 10 minutes? 4 cancers in 10 minutes. All right, here we go. All right. I have been a wellness educator for over 2 decades. I joined a 12-step program when I was 24 for addiction, for food addiction. And I had other addictions, but nothing as great as the food addiction, because that led to bulimia and led to drug use. So when I was 24, and I'm 45 now, when I was 24, I made a decision to change everything about what I was doing. And I joined a program. It's a 12-step program. It's like based on AA or NA, and it's a nonprofit, and they don't charge you to recover, which is a beautiful thing. So I was able to be in that program and get recovery. And part of that was not eating flour and sugar, and not eating in between meals. So I was already living a very healthy lifestyle. My life got better. I cleaned up my act. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking. I just became healthy. And then I started teaching others, how to be healthy. And I started a company called Voracious Healing. And I started also teaching about health around technology to kids. So I was also a public school teacher. I got my master's in technology education. Sorry about that. And so that's how I began my wellness journey. And I was definitely like the healthiest person in my family, by far. The healthiest person in my family, extended family, all my family. I was teaching at this point. I also had gotten into yoga and started teaching yoga. I had many certifications, did mindfulness training, training after training. And I would work as a filmmaker, and I shot many, many events to help pay for my trainings in wellness, because that's what I was attracted to. I was really attracted to spiritual growth that I was experiencing, mind, body, and spirit, as a result of recovery, being in recovery for food addiction, because I had, as I said, been bulimic for 8 years before going into the program. And my whole family had struggled with their weight. And when you put down processed flour and sugar, magical things happen. So many diseases become reversed. So as a result of starting my business and also doing the filmmaking, I ended up leaving teaching, not on my own volition at all. I was pregnant and had my second child, Alma. And so as a result, I started working for a multi-level marketing company, Essential Oils. And that was a very stressful time for me, because I'm a very high achiever, and I really want to be the best, right? But it's a hard business. It's a hard industry. And I worked in that industry for about 6 years. And they say, look at your life 3 years before you got cancer. And so I had just been let go at my job. I had my second child. I had another baby that was 2 years old. So there was a lot happening in 2016. And I was diagnosed in 2019, which is, interesting because, again, I was the healthiest person, but yet I developed a cancer. And how did I get the cancer? I was working in the public school, and then I wanted to get my master's in education technology. And I ended up doing a program at Harvard University. And when I graduated, I also got married and became a yoga teacher. So there was a lot happening. And I was on this wellness education journey. And then in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a shocking thing because here I am educating people about health and wellness and addiction, and yet I developed cancer. Like, that doesn't, how? And I was like the only one in my family. And it also turned out that it was bilateral breast cancer. So in both breasts. And they were like, that's really strange because she's very healthy, and she has a spiritual practice, and why don't you go get genetic testing? Why don't you just go get genetic testing? So I went, because only 5 to 10% of cancers are genetic. The rest, it's environmental, it's metabolic, So I went to go get testing, and it's you wait like 3 weeks, but a part of me was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Was it this? Was it that? Was it, your head is like going crazy. And this is for all women who get diagnosed with these diseases. You're like, what did I do? What did I do? Was it like partying too much in college? Or I don't know. But it turned out that I was positive for the BRCA, which is it's basically breast cancer gene. And, Angelina Jolie made that famous when she proactively got her ovaries and her breasts removed as a result of having this genetic predisposition, even though she never was diagnosed with cancer. So I actually was diagnosed with cancer. I have this aggressive cancer. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh no. But here's the thing, guys. Because I had been in a 12-step program for so long, I already had a very strong spiritual connection to God and to my higher power, whatever you call it. And I had already developed a huge social network of connection for people who just wanted to help me get healthy. There was no nefarious intentions. It was just like, how can we help you? And that's what it is. That's what a 12-step program is all about. There's no other place I know that is that transparent with love and lack of an intention. Like, there's so many intentions all the time. Like, I wanted you to buy this, and I know because I work in sales sometimes, so I get it. So it was I already had that foundation, so I didn't really go into fear, if that makes sense. I didn't go into fear, and then I did all the Western. I went to it kicking and screaming. Since I was in this wellness lifestyle. Right. And I was educating people about non-toxic living. To do chemo felt like, what? They're going to put poison in my body. But I ended up doing it anyway.
This is just such a fascinating story. I think I need to step in and ask you a few questions now.
Yeah.
It's really intriguing to see your journey. It's almost as if life had prepared you to get to this point.
Totally.
We're on that health and wellness journey already. You had the tools.
Yes.
And I like the fact that you didn't jump into fear, because when people hear the C word, that's the first place we go, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what was missing from your own support system that you wanted to offer other women?
Well, can I finish with all the cancers I've had? So 2019, bilateral breast cancer. I did the reconstruction. I did the surgery. I did the chemo. I did it all. My hair, I kept some of my hair. This is not my hair. This is a wig. I kept some of my hair because I did something called the cold cap, which freezes your hair follicle when you are undergoing something like chemotherapy. And then when I did I did the surgery, I have, I did a deep reconstruction where they took fat from my stomach and put in my boobs. Okay, all is good. All right. And then I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm all set. And then it was the pandemic, right? And everybody was afraid of their own shadow here in Massachusetts. It's very cold. It's not sunny like where you are. It's very cold. And I said, I want to go back to Miami because that's where I'm from. And I just want to live there. And I don't want to be around fear and dampness and coldness and darkness. And it was just a very dismal time. It was the height of the pandemic. And so we went to Miami. And I was living my life there, but I started having extraordinary pain shooting up my spine to my brain. Okay. And I thought it was sciatica. So I was doing, acupuncture. I went to a chiropractor. It turned out that I was diagnosed with a brain tumor the size of an organic strawberry. Okay. And then I collapsed and I was rushed basically back to Boston because I wasn't going to do anything in Miami. I didn't have insurance in Miami. I had it only in Boston. And plus, this is where you want to be when shit hits the fan. So essentially, I was rushed back to the hospital. I met an amazing doctor, and he took out the tumor. He took out the tumor, and they patched it up. It didn't close properly, so they had to put a shunt. So I have a shunt in my head. Which is basically a tube that draws into my stomach and drains the CSF, which is the cerebral spinal fluid. And then the back of my head looked like a Viking. It was really crazy. It was all sewn up and everything. And then I'm like, boom, now I want to help people, right? I'm going to be helping women. And that's when I created Breast Cancer Goddess. And because I wanted to really educate people about how not to walk through fear, through breast cancer, through brain cancer. That was my mission. So I started coaching other women, and I learned a lot through coaching other women. I learned about fasting, the metabolic approach to cancer, and I learned about detoxing more. This is stuff I knew about detoxing, but this was on a deep, deep level, detoxing from this toxic chemical that stays in your system. It can stay in your system for years and affect your organs. So I learned about that. And so that began my journey, Gertrude. That began my journey. However, let me go on because there's 2 more cancers to go. So then that was 2021. We give it a year, right? Vera's doing her whole coaching thing. And then in 2023, I go to I keep going to after you have brain cancer, that's all people care. They don't care about the boob anymore. They care about the brain, right? So you get scanned of the brain every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever, 2 months, you just keep getting scanned because the Western medicine is like really great at like scanning and checking to make sure nothing else is popping up. And so then, I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was like, I don't want to be on any pharmaceutical. So I got off of the pharmaceutical that I was on, and they started seeing activity in my brain. And my doctors were like, that activity, some of them, not all of them, some of them were like, you have that activity because you went off the drug. Which is not true. It's actually not true. It's not that it was maybe a coincidence, but I started getting activity in my brain, which means the cancer spreads. Okay. Because the cancer is like a crab. It likes to go everywhere. So it crawled. My original breast cancer had crawled. When you open things up, cancer likes to travel. So when they opened it up and removed the cancer from my breast, it's traveled up to my brain because chemo doesn't really affect the chemo that they gave me did not affect the blood-brain barrier of the brain and the breast. Okay, so cancer could still travel up and then lodge itself like a little crab into my cerebellum. Okay, so no wonder I was having all these like issues walking and the shooting pains. I mean, it was right in the cerebellum. So when they remove the cancer out of the cerebellum, remember the size of an organic strawberry, right? cancer cells can still be like, woo, let's party time. And then they give you radiation. They gave me whole brain radiation. No, at that point, they gave me targeted radiation through an amazing machine called the cyber knife. Have you heard of that?
No.
I mean, just the name of it is really powerful, right? It's a multi-million-dollar machine or something, maybe not multi-million-dollar machine. And so cancer had started developing these residual cancer cells had started because surgery does not get at the stem cells. It does not. There's other ways, and that's what I teach people, how to actually get at the stem cells, but surgery doesn't, and neither does chemo. It can make the stem cells actually stronger, which it probably did. The chemo that they gave me initially made it stronger. So then the activity was in my brain. It was called leptomeningeal disease. Okay, so if you Google that, it says 3 to 6 months to live. All right. So no wonder some of my doctors were totally freaked out because people don't survive it. They just don't. They don't. Wow. And so my doctors were like, one doctor made me feel really crappy. He's like, I can't believe you went off and I really respect this doctor. And he's like, I can't believe you went off your medicine. You have caused this. This is so serious. Another doctor said, do not Google it. It is really bad. Really bad. Like you will be depressed, So I didn't actually Google it until I recovered from it. And so I remember I called, I was in my schoolyard. I was picking up my kids and I called the only person I could think of, a friend who is a naturopathic doctor. Okay. A naturopathic doctor. And I said, Western medicine does not have a solution for me. What do I do? And she said, Vera, stop eating and start fasting. Stop eating and start fasting. On green juice only. No carrots, nothing sweet, no fruit, no fun, right? Just green celery.
So it's what? Celery, apples. What is the green?
No apples. That's fruit. That's sugar.
So it stayed away from sugar. It was vegetable greens, correct?
Yes. Just green vegetables. And of course you can add, some lemon and some ginger and garlic, but that's all you do because you're putting yourself into a crazy state of apoptosis, of autophagy, and you're killing the cancer cells. Okay. So I started doing that. And remember, I had already been fasting for 20 years, not eating any flour and sugar between meals. I eat 3 meals a day, nothing in between. I weigh my food. That's part of the food addiction thing, right? So my body was already, I had already trained for the marathon. So this was the marathon and my body had already trained for it. So when I started going, day 1, day 2, day 3, I recorded every day, guys. Every day is found on my Instagram at Vera the Cancer Goddess, And you can see, you can go back in time, go back to 2023. You can see it. Day 1, day 2, day 3. And I also documented fashion every day because I'm really into fashion and design. And I documented somebody interesting every day because it kept my mind off of the fasting. Because it was, some moments are really hard. So then I did 30 days of that. Okay. And then when that was over, I said, well, why don't I just keep going? And this time I integrated broth and seeds all with the guidance of my naturopath, right? All with the guidance of my naturopath. And I went 67 days, Gertrude. I went 67 days fasting. I still was taking in some nutrients. I was I was getting so skinny. I got to 90 pounds. And I'll tell you why, because here's the thing. I broke my fast in Dominican Republic. Okay. And the microbiome of the fruits and vegetables is completely different than what I was used to. Right. So my body, I was basically poisoning myself at that point, and I couldn't eat. And so I got to 90 pounds. I was pretty much a skeleton, and I was kind of rushed back to Boston. This is the theme. And they were saying goodbye. People were saying goodbye to me. Hospice was called. It was like, girl, this is the end. Like, you tried. I don't know what you were doing, but it didn't work. And now we're going to say goodbye. So people were saying goodbye to me, and family members, and it was an intense time. I said goodbye to my children. I mean, you never forget anything like that. You never forget almost dying, right? And so my oncologist was like, let me roll the dice and give her a drug. Okay. That's why I'm all about the complementary. I'm not saying like, don't do it. I'm saying if you need it, you need it. And so they gave me a drug called NR2, and she just rolled the dice. I mean, she didn't know. I mean, at this point, they just expected me to die. So they were just like, why don't we just try it? Right.
Right.
And she tried it. And because my body was so primed and cleaned out, I had probably killed out all the cancer cells at that point, after 67 days of fasting, because that's the metabolic approach to cancer. That's what's studied. That's what I focus on. That's the people I interview and learn from, like Dr. Thomas Segfried of Boston College. I just interviewed him on my podcast, The Cancer Goddess, on Spotify and on Substack. I talked to them about what heals cancer, really at the root cause, root cause. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. The root was clean. Of course, I was 90 pounds. I was a skin and bones, and I could barely walk. I had to use a walker. I mean, really, I have had to learn how to do everything again. I had a nursemaid for 6 months who helped me cook and clean and take care of my children. I mean, it was really, it's hard to see that now, but at the time, just go back to my Instagram. You can see all that. You can even see my time in rehab, how skinny I was. And so what happened was they dumped this magic juice. That's what I call the NR2. I call it magic juice. They dumped the magic juice into me. And then slowly I started getting better, because again, that 67 days of fasting, when they just dump the magic juice into people, it doesn't work if they haven't done the stem cell. If they haven't reached the cellular level, the stem cells. Mm-hmm. So because I had targeted that, the drug mixed with whatever I had done for 67 days, I don't really know. That's science beyond my comprehension. It started to work. The drug healed me along with the fasting that I had done. And I started getting better and better and better and better and better. And here I am now, and then I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2024, but who cares about that? Because I've survived brain cancer. So it may not be there. I don't know. I don't care. At this point, I'm here. I'm happy. I'm doing amazing things like pole dancing. I traveled to India recently for 2.5 weeks, and I stayed at an Ayurvedic hospital and learned more about detox, cleaning the body out. And so I'm living my best life, Gertrude. And I started this nonprofit. I started Breast Cancer Goddess because, get this, the woman who helped me live never charged me.
Wow.
And that's why I started a nonprofit, because I don't believe in charging people to heal. And you know what? It screws me up a little bit, because I just had a retreat and I lost $4,000 because I was helping other women live. And I'm learning how to be abundant. And I'm starting other businesses to make that happen.
How did building a community impact your own healing journey?
Well, for instance, I teach something called Radical Remission. I teach about mind-body connection. I work with a professor at Harvard University named Dr. Ellen Langer. And so if I'm teaching, I'm reinforcing my own learning. And if people show up to learn, that makes me happy. And I reward those who learned. So if you it just reinforces my own learning if I'm teaching them. It's also community building, right? So every time I do these retreats, and this is my second one, I'm bringing together a bunch of goddesses who care about really getting to the core at why they have cancer. Not just, oh, I have cancer, I'm going to do a bunch of drugs and call it a day. No, this is not the Susan Komen approach. No, this is not. This is really stem cell level stuff, getting at the core. Why? Right? You talked about it too. Emotional is huge, right? Stress is huge. I mean, that is fundamental. So we really focus on reducing stress. We focus on the fundamentals. That's why I wanted to start a community of other women who were passionate about this just as I am.
So what are some of the misconceptions about breast cancer recovery that you wish more people understood?
That it's an ongoing job. It's not over just because they took out, your boobs and sewed you up and put some implants in there. That's just the beginning. And cancer is knocking on your door saying, hey, lady, like you have inflammation because of XYZ. So you got to look at that. How you eat, your stress level, what products you're using. I work for a product company, the wellness, it's a wellness company. And we educate all about non-toxic living. So if you're still using Windex and Clorox and all these toxic chemicals you're putting on yourself or your children or your pets, like that's also a place to start. Like getting your whole bathroom toxic free, getting your whole kitchen toxic free, and getting your mindset toxic free. Getting your mind, body, and spirit toxic free. So cancer is just a first step. It's an awareness, and be grateful for it. And not to fuck cancer, not cancer sucks, not any of this, but we dance with cancer. We learn from it. And that's what a goddess does.
So I have two more questions to ask you before we finish. First one is going to teleport you into the past.
I'm sorry, what?
We're going to teleport you into the past and have a conversation with the young woman who got that first cancer diagnosis. If you could go back and give her 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
That's a great question. I would say this is all happening for a purpose. I feel that my higher power, God, whatever you call it, has chosen me to help others and not to be afraid. Not that I have been afraid, but to just confirm not to be afraid, and to continue helping others and not to be afraid of finances. That abundance is going to come. And the more that you help, the more people want to help you.
And now to finish off, let me take you into the future. And we're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. With your feisty spirit, I can see you at the age of 90, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren. If you could teleport into the future to meet this wise woman who is leading you up until that point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
What I say to the 9-year-old me? I'd say, lady, are you pole dancing because you made it this far and we need to celebrate? I would also say, are you still doing your yoga? Are you still having fun? Are you still helping others? I would just make sure she's doing that and not becoming senile or something.
I don't think that will happen with you. You seem like a very active person. Thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with our community today. We're always looking for those positive, uplifting stories that can help women who are going through these challenges to know that you can restore your health. There's alternative methodologies you can look into. So thank you so much. And what is the best place for people to find you?
Right. That's a great question. So Instagram is Vera the Cancer Goddess, Vera the Cancer Goddess. And that will take you to my other projects, such as Abundant Life Stays, which is my for-profit real estate venture. And we put people back into a different time period based on the work of Dr. Ellen Langer of Harvard University. She's the first tenured professor of psychology that's female in the department, and her 45 years of research that shows where you put the mind, the body follows. So we bring women back to the 90s before they had cancer and before they had Google. So we do these turn back to time clockwise retreats. And I also have properties that are timeless properties. And I also have my nonprofit, which is at Breast Cancer Goddess. There's also a link to that as well. And find me on Facebook, Vera Ventura. You can also find me on Substack. And that's where I have a digital memoir of my story that is just emerging, because I just started this a month and a half ago. But it's at The Cancer Goddess is my Substack. And then you can also listen to it on Spotify. But Substack, you can get special bonuses. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you so much, Vera. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, inspire you, energize you, empower you with knowledge, but most importantly, to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are on your healing journey with cancer, here is a resource that you can tap into, a story that can keep you uplifted and energized. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again for the interview, Vera.
Is there any way?
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.